So first of all, thank you so much for being with us today, Leilia. I'm just gonna double check if the sound is okay on YouTube. I'm just gonna just refresh the given page. I'm just gonna, oops, should be right normally, but just double checking. Okay. So first of all, thank you. Okay, Leilia, can you just a couple of words today?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Okay. The sound is okay on YouTube. I'm just gonna just refresh the given page. Should be right. Should be right normally, but just double checking. Okay, Leilia, can you just a couple of words?
Hello.
Okay, well, perfect. Thank you so much, Leilia, for your time today. So I just make like a brief summary of this kind of YouTube set of interviews. So my name is Ronan Chardonneau. I'm a former SEO practitioner, and I love learning some new stuff. And what I'm trying to do with this kind of show, I will say on YouTube, is to interview different either native speaker or either, let's say, expatriates about given market country, and ask them some curiosity question about how to perform search marketing within their respective market. So today, this is I think this is the 5th SEO journey that I'm running. I already run one about Switzerland, one about the Netherlands, one about, what was it? One about Poland, and another one about the United Kingdom. Today I'm very excited because that's really the first time that we are going really outside of our comfort area, I would say, as a, let's say, European or at least a French person. And today I'm delighted to have with me Leilia Baichorova from Russia, who will answer to the questions that I have dealing with how it ends up when we are marketing Russia. So first of all, Leilia, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm gonna start with a quick and easy question for you. Could you just please introduce yourself and explain us how do you came to search marketing? What is your position today? How do you deal with let's say Russia search marketing in general?
Well, my digital marketing journey started not long after my studies in University of Angers. So I started as copywriter because that's what I used to do before in my life. I was writing a lot and was the most obvious start. Then I gained more experience in SEO, and I lean more toward the advertising SEO and more what we call in Russia targeting, so paid social media. However, I still keep working sometimes in both parts because they are very tied together. I'm self-employed. However, I have quite a broad portfolio, we can say. I worked with the hotels, I worked with the e-commerce, and now soon, probably tomorrow, start with the new client.
Wow, okay, congratulations. First question about, let's say, the Russian market. I just would like to say as well to our audience, I just activate the chat on YouTube. So if some of our audience have live question to ask directly to Leilia, feel free to go on YouTube on this talk, and on the right you should have like a chat on which you can post your questions in real time, and I will of course ask them to you, Leilia, straight away. Okay, first question. When we think about Russia, we think automatically about Yandex, the search engine. Could you please tell us what is the real impact of Yandex on the Russian market? Here I'm saying more like, okay, does it mean that every Russian citizen or anyone who would like to do, let's say, search marketing with Russia has to use Yandex? What is, let's say, the weight of Yandex in Russia? And does Google has any role to play in Russia, or are they banned, or are they just not used at all? Could you please just clarify what is the position of Yandex.
Yes, I understand. They are more or less equal in the positions. Like you cannot get away from Google because it's everywhere. It's on the phones. It's on laptops. But Yandex has at least about 60% of the market. You know, Yandex and Google always say that no, we have more more segment than the other search engine. But in fact, if you want to perform SEO in Russia, you need to consider both search engines because many businesses who stick just with one of them lose a lot. I had this situation in my past when one of my clients they were always with Yandex only.
Mm-hmm.
And after we started to say we started our SEO journey with the Google,
Mm-hmm.
We improved the numbers a lot.
Okay. Sorry, that's a curiosity question which wasn't on the list, but now that you are saying it, I'm thinking about it. You say that Google has kind of a lot of control, it's kind of hard to get out of it. Does it mean that when you purchase, for example, a smartphone in Russia, does it mean that you don't have any Yandex app which are installed by default? Or does it mean that you have them? Does it mean as well that Yandex has no plan of going into the smartphone market, for example? Could you tell us a bit more about, because for example, I know that in Japan, when I had the chance to go there some years ago, on some mobile phones, they have directly like the Yahoo button on the mobile phone, and I don't know how it is. Is Yandex highly advertised on the Russian market at all? I mean, maybe more on hardware and that kind of thing, or is it just like it's happening just on the online services side?
No, if you buy a smartphone, for example, I don't know anywhere is implemented Yandex services by default. It's usually Google.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you download anything on in Russian, in Runet, in Russian space, so usually there is additional windows. So, for example, I want to download Yandex browser, or I want to have this or that Yandex service. So yes, they exist. They penetrate in like in our environment, but not with like not with smartphones. Maybe with some Russian products, but I am not qualified enough on that.
Okay.
I never used any.
Okay. Sorry, I have another curiosity question. For example, let's imagine that you are a student or just a citizen of Russia. When you think, for example, about Drive, for example, we know Google Drive. So, for example, like where to store the file, do Yandex has the equivalent of those, or is the mere, let's say, the simple reflex that people have, the main website they will think about in order to host some file will be Google Drive? I mean, for example, is Google Drive popular in Russia, or do you have the equivalent of Yandex in Russia for those services?
Google Drive is popular in Russia.
Okay.
And yes, Yandex has the equivalent. It's called the Yandex Cloud, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So it's the same. You have Yandex email, and you have all the services with it.
Okay, so it's definitely like you mentioned, like a 50-50 market on which is more like the habits of the people will probably drive them in one direction rather than the other, or something like this.
Yeah, it also depends on what you're looking for. Because if it's something really Russian, let's say, so you probably will look for it in Yandex, because for a long time I noticed that Yandex has the better understanding of Russian semantics than Google. Like something that Google will rank lower and you need it, you will find it in Yandex and it will be higher. So last years it seems that they the algorithm are more or less close, but it always depends on what companies do. Maybe they just focus more on Google, or they focus more on Yandex. So
okay. Sorry for this question as well, because it wasn't on the list, and as well, feel free not to answer it. Say, okay, I don't want to answer, or I'm not competent in order to answer, or at least I don't have the answer to answer to it, but I have to talk about it. I'm sorry for that, but you know that in China, for example, some websites are just definitely blocked. Like a lot of Google services are just blocked. Is it the same thing in Russia? Can you have some Google services which are just blocked by let's say by communication provider, in order to say, okay, you cannot get an access because we just decided that you cannot get an access to Google Drive, for example, or Wikipedia, or whatever? Do you have such they call it firewall, let's say, or in...
I wouldn't call it a firewall. Okay. But we have an organization that is called Rospotrebnadzor. Mm-hmm. That actually monitor the information sources on the internet.
So it's not like so they are more like blocking the information rather than the services in themselves, right?
No, I don't. Yes, I am not qualified enough on that.
Well, it's a tricky question. I mean,
we are not yet under this, shield when okay, our government can cut us out of the external world. Mm-hmm. So we have the legislative base on which they can ban certain sites, and we have actually a site where you can check why it was banned. Okay. They usually write a number of the federal law that was violated somehow. For example, LinkedIn is banned in Russia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and some other sites too. I remember there was a fuss that they tried to ban YouTube. Uh-huh. Well, okay. It's complicated, and I still want to come back to my country. I'm not going to discuss it anymore.
Yeah, not sure. Of course, we will, let's say, arrange it on the video later on. But yeah, I think it's interesting to know that on LinkedIn, for example, you cannot access to it, because it's true that I was recently I was looking for Russian profile on LinkedIn. I was surprised to cannot find any of those, whereas they are kind of well known, let's say. So I guess they just didn't have any interest on LinkedIn because the service is somehow blocked. Okay, thank you very much. Are there any services that we should know about which are under, let's say, the Yandex Galaxy or set of service that Google do not have? For example, just to give you a simple example, I know that Yandex Metrica, which is sorry for my accent or the way I'm pronouncing it, but which is kind of the equivalent of Google Analytics, has this very famous heat map and session recording feature, which is showing in fact the different movement of the mouse, scrolling, and so on and so forth. And Google Analytics is not launching at all this feature. I don't know if this is for privacy reasons or image reasons or whatever, but they just don't have it. But Yandex Metrica is mostly famous for it, and I was wondering if there are any services that you often go into, or at least dig into, because you cannot find the alternative within the Google set of services.
Well, you already mentioned one of the most interesting functions of Yandex Webmaster and Yandex Metrica. Something else could be Yandex dialogues that they implemented. That, for example, a potential customer, potential visitor, they can ask you something directly from the search window. Mm-hmm. So in the snippet, there is a small window for the dialogue, but it's good only if you actually monitor these things. Okay. If you don't have time for it, don't use it. Then we have Yandex Q. It's some sort of Quora. I am not sure. Quora doesn't belong to Google, or does?
I don't think so. I don't think so, but that's widely popular for sure.
Yeah, well, this Yandex.View is also same source where people ask questions, and you have a possibility to answer from the name of your company. Let's say. Yandex also made a portal that calls Yandex Zen, where you can write articles. This is actually sort of good for backlinking, a bit helpful, and of course you rank better. And one more feature I just remembered, it calls turbo page, turbo страницы in Russian. So it makes your mobile version lighter, and the pages are uploaded instantly.
Okay.
So if you have this version, also Yandex rates you higher.
Okay. Okay, so definitely there are things to dig within Yandex in order to rank higher within the search. That's what I understood here.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm okay. You already answered to this one. When we think so when we think about the Russian language, we are thinking about this country, which is kind of taking the full map on Earth. So the country Russia, but are there any other countries in the world, or at least other markets, on which the Russian language can be used in order to market some other territories, let's say? Let's imagine if we take, for example, English, we know that we can target the USA, we know that we can target the United Kingdom and South Africa, for example. I'm not 100% sure what is the weight of Russian outside of Russia.
Well, basically, well, we can't say all former Soviet Union, but some countries that were included. I'm not sure how to properly translate it in Russian, but we have like you have European Union. We have some, or had some sort of a unity of sovereign countries that included Kazakhstan, Ukraine some years ago, Belarus. So yes, there are plenty of markets that you can target. Russian language goes less and less spoken in Armenia and Georgia. Still spoken in Azerbaijan, I think. Very well spoken in Kazakhstan. They're like almost all bilinguals. Yes, definitely Belarus, as I said. Some parts of Ukraine. Yeah, and there are a lot of Russian diasporas in Eastern and Central Europe, like in Estonia, Finland, Lithuania. So yes, depends on, you really need to dig in, you really need to make a research, because freely you can use Russian language in Russia. But if you consider other markets to add in, you need to make additional research.
Okay. So just to be sure, so for example, someone is asking you, okay, you have to deal with SEO in Russian, most of the time they're just considering Russia and not the other markets that you mentioned, probably because as you said, it's like additional work to do, additional search to do, and probably markets that people are mostly interested in Russia in itself rather than all the other markets which are around. Am I right? Okay.
Yeah, it's probably more useful for Russian businesses who want to get more share, let's say.
Okay. So next question is about what about domain names and URLs in Russia? For example, are you used to use Cyrillic characters within the URL? If yes, how do you do that? If no, do you translate? Is there a way to translate from Cyrillic to Latin character, but it's still written in Russian somehow? Is it like English adaptation, like most of the time Chinese and Japanese will do within the URL, like using words in Japanese, or that's also what Koreans are doing? How do you deal with this?
You can use Cyrillic, of course, if you want, but it's quite rare. You definitely will be memorized by the customers and consumers, but it's not necessary. You don't have to do that. First of all, if you adapt your brand, let's say, for the Russian language, then yes, you can use it. But in fact, it's more like obstacle. So I wouldn't suggest it unless your product is targeted directly only on Russians and it sounds good in Russian. Like, let's say if your brand name is French or English, then just transliteration with the Cyrillics will be not pleasant. You better focus on the content of your site, so it should be in Russian.
Okay.
Not your name, not necessarily.
And so dealing with the URL part, it means that you are using Latin characters within the URL, am I right?
Yes.
And let's say, for example, that you want to use like the word car. I don't know how do you say car in Russian.
Carré.
Okay. Does it mean that you have an equivalent for this word in Latin character that you can put within the URL, or do you use the word car in English? Or...
Machine. Okay. I don't know. It depends. So if your brand is car tiger, I don't know, okay. Whatever. Leave it like that. It will be in Latin letters. It will not be transliterated in Russian because it doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound good. It doesn't even look good. So I used to see some URLs in Cyrillic, but it was with Russian words.
Okay.
And you don't translate your brand name.
Okay.
You can adapt it, but you don't translate it. Like, for example, the same Auchan, French brand. In order to save the logo, in Russia, they are Ashan. So, but they still use the same Latin letters in the URL. So it's IUCH.
Okay. And let's imagine, for example, that tomorrow I'm receiving a text fully written in Russian. So fully written in Cyrillic. I need to find out a URL in order to adapt to this text. So I will probably use the title of the article that the Russian, let's say, translator handed to me. And so I need to copy and paste this title in Cyrillic. Then in which services, online service, should I insert it into in order to have the conversion of this Cyrillic text into Latin character? Is it like Google Translate or that kind of, I mean, which services will you use online in order to get the equivalent of those Cyrillic characters into Latin ones that you can use within the URL afterwards?
I see the question. Well, I think you can try reverse context.
Okay.
I think they have the service of transliteration. I'm not sure. You need to check.
Okay. No problem. So next question is about, sorry, I had one remaining with the domain name. So you confirm me that it's the .ru, which is the mostly used as a top level domain name in Russia, or do you have any other common top-level domain name that webmaster are used to use?
Yeah, most all generic common names like .com, org, net, info. There are plenty. Like when you choose a hosting, they usually have a huge range to choose. Some are more expensive, some are less. So
okay, so it's like everybody is used to see a set of different TLD, and doesn't really matter to have a .ru at the end.
It doesn't that it's not that matter, but I guess it's more trustworthy if it's .ru or .com, because people are used to that two types. But if it's something else and you have a lot of backlinks, your site doesn't look like anything fishy.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay. Next question that I have, just for audience, the chat is still on, so if you have any live question to ask to Leilia, feel free to use it. In terms of business with Europe, how does it work with Russia? I mean, as I sent to you by on paper, it's kind of tough for us to identify, is Russia part of Europe, because Europe, Russia is taking part, for example, of European sport competition. So we have the feeling that it's part of Europe, but it's not on the other side part of the European Union. And does it change something in terms of business? I mean, do Russian citizens, Russian consumers are used to purchase some products, goods, which are in Europe, for example, in the euro currency? Or is it like, okay, we are not interested into those products because we believe that we have the equivalent in Russia for those products and services, and how much adaptation, let's say, a webmaster in Europe who would like to target Russia has to do in order to for the people in Russia to feel confident and yet say, let's say that I want to target Russia. What should I do in order to be seen as a trustworthy website for Russian consumer? That's mostly my questions.
Well, it's enough for you to be French. I'm kidding. No, despite the fact that we are not part of the European trade union, there are plenty products that are imported in Russia from Europe, from Americas, from Asia. So it's more problematic for local businesses than for foreigners. Your main goal is to localize your product, your brand. Like if you want to sell something, it's better to have converted currency in rubles. First of all, because we in our country we don't pay in any other currency. Yes, for example, if we purchase something from foreign internet source with goods and the price is written in dollars or in euros, we just pay with our cards and it's converted. But if you make a site for the Russian audience, you need to adapt it, you need to translate it, you need to use our currency, you need to localize it. You stay global, but you stay local. Something like this.
Okay. Okay, so it goes back to the answer that you just made. What pieces of advice will you give to someone who would like to target Russia from an outsider country? You mentioned, for example, translators. You need to translate the content, but how do you do it? I mean, what are the different platforms on which we can easily get someone who will be able to talk with us, or at least communicate in English and get the translation in Russian correctly? It's kind of a funny question, but it's when we are in our country, it's always hard to find it. And when we try to look on the internet, on Yandex or anything like this, everything is written in Russia. So on Russian. So do you know any platform on which platform would you recommend, or in order to find these translators?
If you're looking for somebody for the permanent position in your company, not only like one of the biggest resources, Headhunter in Russia, where you can find people to hire. And I know that it's used not only by Russians but also by foreigners. Yeah, we have a lot of freelance portals like freelancer.ru or freelance.ru, not sure. Keywork. Then there is a source that is called Habr.
Okay.
It is dedicated to the technician subjects and marketing and development, design. So they also made their own portal, freelance.habr, I think.
Okay.
Where you can find people there. Well, actually, I think Russia is quite saturated. The market of interpreters and translators is saturated in Russia. You can easily find somebody who speaks English or French or German. We have a lot of linguists. I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Okay. So what is the best online translator service in order to translate from one language to Russian? Just to give you an example, for example, last time I was trying to get some content translated in Korean, and Google Translate was catastrophic. So I used the service of Naver, was their own service, online service translation. It was far better. So I don't know if Google Translate is a good fit in order to translate, and if so, what would be the best language? Is it from English to Russian, or is it better in French to Russian, or is it better from German to Russian? What is the best results from what you have experienced?
Google Translate is not that bad, but quite generic and not the best. And if you choose a language to translate, which to choose to translate on Russian, it's better English because the linguistic base is wider than in the other languages. And I already mentioned reverser context. They translate. They have a base of context translation. So they accumulate it, and the result is more precise. Then there is another portal that is called Prompt, I think. I am not sure. Yeah, Prompt.
Okay.
And it was made by linguists, so it should be also very helpful. But it's always better if you have somebody who can check your translation. I have a friend from Mexico, and they were working on the application, some sort of Doctolib in France. And they made a Russian version. They didn't find a translator yet, interpreter, so he asked me to check if it's good or not. And it was catastrophic. Because sometimes the direct translation that you get is not the meaning or the sense that should have been put, even in one small button. And it's funny, but if you will go on App Store or Google Play and you will look through the reviews, it's quite often when you can see complaints from Russian users that why there is no Russian version, or can you find somebody who will work on it. So yeah, it's important.
Okay. Next question is about, are there a lot of competition within the Russian search engine results? It can be either the Google one or the Yandex one from overseas companies. Do you have the feeling that when you are browsing the result from a Russian search engine, or let's say a Google search engine, do you have the feeling that, okay, there are definitely a lot of competition, it's kind of a crowded market, whatever the field of activity, either tourism, do you have the feeling that when you look at the results, the SEO market is not that mature yet in Russia? I mean, there are still some spot to get, or is it like in the US or in the UK, on which there is a so fierce competition that you know that you already need to put a lot of money on the table in order to make a difference, that you really need to have like a backlinking strategy budget, that you need to hire big agencies in order to work on your stuff, that you need to put some money on the advertising program. How does the Russian SERP look like?
Well, it depends on the vertical where you work, what your business does. For example, if it's e-commerce, the top places are taken by huge aggregators and marketplaces is Amazon, Wildberries, and others. So it's quite hard because as they say, it's about 60% of traffic is and goes for top 5 places. Top 7, I want to believe sometimes, but no. So market in Russia is not that saturated and competitive as in US or in Europe. But yes, right now it's already an era when you actually need to put a lot of effort in your SEO, and you need to work smart, and sometimes even get the help from the professional agency.
Okay. Okay. Next question is about. So I already prepare you to this question, saying that if you don't want to answer to this one, you don't answer to this one. But this is what we are hearing in the news in France. Sorry for that. That's when there is a like kind of hacking, so a website which have been hacked or anything like this. They are saying, okay, this is due to Russian hackers. Some stuff when it goes with why are the results of my analytics software totally wrong? Well, this is because of Russian bots, and so on and so forth. I just would like to know if someone is planning to deploy a website targeting Russia, trying to get high within the SERP. Do they need to invest within a security program? Do they need to put money into securing more their servers and website, because it means that they are somehow going to promote themselves in Russia, and that as Russia may be subject to more attacks, or let's say from let's say Russian hackers or bots program, should they invest more into security? That's the sense of my question. Or do you think this just like a bad image that the media are spreading about Russia, and that's not the case at all, and that those bots and hackers may come from all over the world, and that they are just using like proxies in order to badly advertise on Russia?
Wow.
Or you are free to answer or not. You can say, okay, skip next question because I don't want to answer to this one. You feel free.
I can give some of my thoughts on that. Well, the question of internet security may take just another full 2-hour interview, but I seriously don't think that Russia is a nation of hackers, and that it's harder in Russia than anywhere else. And when you go to the internet, you just need your basic security hygiene. That you use SSL certificates, and it's obligatory. It's like it's not even in question. Then most of the hostings, like big hostings in Russia, they provide the security from typical attacks like DDoS attack, or many of them. And your main, if you don't want to invest in a lot of, if you don't want to invest in security, you either choose a good hosting that takes care of that, and please take care of your admin panel. So just basics, double authentication, no saved entries, no personal data left on the site as an open source, not hashed. This is simple steps that you should take, and never betray them. Otherwise, why do you even start your business in internet? Okay. It's like not closing your shop after you finish the work.
Okay. Sorry, that's a curiosity question which wasn't on the list, but do you have, let's say, IT security courses when you are at schools, or because I know, for example, that dealing with France, for example, it came after some years. I mean, it wasn't here at the beginning at all, and it's just rising because more people are using it, but it was not part of our DNA, because France is not, not recognized as a great country, but I mean, we were less concerned by this over the last year. Probably they didn't invest much into IT in general, and I just wanted to know if Russia, it was since the beginning that let's say students or any young people knows about IT security in general.
I don't know if it's taught in schools, because when I was studying in school, it was not a thing. Okay. Like, we had just basic informatics and that's it. But what I can definitely say is based on my observation, on my friends, family, and others, that you just don't have other choice. You catch some viruses and you start to read more how to get rid of it, and you just educate yourself from the open sources in the internet. Okay. Probably that would be only logical if in schools and in universities they were giving this kind of courses about security in the internet, but I don't have information on that.
Okay. So next question is about Russian technologies. So in France and probably all around the world in Europe, we hear a lot about two companies. So we already mentioned Yandex, but as well SEMrush that you probably know about, which are kind of the two big Russian flags in the world when we talk about search marketing. Are there any third, fourth, fifth one that we should know about, or maybe it's just the name which does not sound Russian, but if you know any third, fourth, fifth, or any other technology that we should know from Russia, what are they?
Yes, one that I discovered for myself quite some time ago, and I adore it. It calls Cake Collector. It's a software for parsing, for creating a semantic core for your site, and it's the best because it really saves a lot of time. So if before you were spending hours in WordStat, Yandex WordStat, or in Google Trends, so here everything is together, and you just do it fast, and the quality is way better, and there's really a lot with what you can work, and it's not expensive, just under $30 or euros, I think. Yeah.
So the name is Click Collector?
Yes, Cake Collector.
Okay.
I honestly don't know if it's useful for English sites. because I use it only for Russians, because with SEO I worked only in Russia. But I guess it's worth a shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any third or fourth technologies that you heard about?
Yeah, I don't want to give anybody an advertisement.
Okay.
Not that I don't want, is that I am not sure if they are the best in what they are doing, or there is somebody in the same field and with the same competencies, but not known to me.
Okay.
So, yeah, let's say I'll stop here.
Okay. I mean, when some years ago I was studying a bit the different markets around the world, you had one social network which was super famous named VContact or something like this.
Yes, we
Is it still alive or?
Oh, yes, it is alive. It's our Facebook equivalent, and I'm not sure that it will ever die.
Okay.
Yeah, just as part of the digital marketing for a company in Russia, yes, you should register in VK and use it as a platform of communication as well as platform for advertising.
Okay, so you have as well and you have also mail.ru or something like this. For
What?
example, what is the equivalent, for example, of Gmail? It's
Okay, yeah, Mail.ru.
Mail.ru. Is it
Yeah.
part of Yandex Galaxy or is it independent or?
Mail.ru Group is a huge conglomerate. If Yandex is part of that, I'm not sure. Like VK, for example, belongs to this enterprise. But about Yandex, they might bought them, but it's not clear.
And do you have as well advertising services which are linked with those mail services? Because, for example, with Gmail, you can put some spots of advertising. And is it the same thing with Mail.ru or?
Well, Yandex has Yandex Direct, and
Okay.
Mail.ru, in terms of SEO, I'm not sure, but I definitely know that they have a source for paid social, which called My Target.
Okay.
And so it's more like equivalent of Facebook ads. And it's big, it's good, and they also have like this possibility to do a semantic targeted advertising.
And I don't remember if it was in Russia at all, but some years ago you had the alternative search engine to Yandex as well, small one. I don't know if they're still online. I think it was Rambler or something like this, no?
Yes,
It still exists, okay.
Yes, it still exists, but I didn't hear about them much.
Okay.
They're like this cozy part of our Russian internet.
Okay. So I'm gonna go through the last questions. Do you have any pieces of advice to give to any SEO practitioners who would like to rank high within the Russian search engine results? What are the different pieces of advice that you could give her or him?
There is no particular specifics in Russian SEO. In fact, what all tendencies that appear in West, they all go to the East in Russia.
Okay.
So yes, so the main is work on your content. Like it shouldn't be clickbait articles as they used to be. Like because just as Google Yandex implemented the new algorithm that based on the search of sense of semantic. So it's not, you shouldn't do your article for Yandex or Google bots, but you should do it for people. besides also the I don't know how to translate, like morphological variability. It actually comes from America, but I heard about it in Russia, so I'm not sure about proper translation. So the Russian language is rich, so use it. Use it to interest people. This is the main advice. And what else I can say? Yeah, I think Yandex also pursues the same algorithm that implemented by Google, like which is EAT, expertise of как же там было? Экспертиза. Yeah, so you need to be the best in your what to say work. You need to be you need to know what you're writing about. So if it's just a copywriter that never ever heard about games, you cannot wait from him to write a good observation on the game industry. So you really need to work on your content. You really need to think who you are hiring. This is the main thing.
Okay. I'm going through the last question. I still have 9 minutes left. What are the big web hosting platform company in Russia? What are the big names? For example, in Europe, it's mainly OVH, but as well there are others such as 1&1 and many different. But for Russia, what are the big names that we should know about?
TimeWeb, okay. I guess it's the most wide known. I can also say Regru.
Okay.
I think they even have the gratuit free version. Then there are about 5 good hostings that you can find.
Okay.
The biggest one is TimeWeb.
Next question is about the technological part. When you build up a website in Russia, for example, I'm gonna make it straight. Is WordPress, for example, the main used technology when it comes to creating a website, or do you have, let's say, other technological platform that you are used to play with?
As an open source, yeah, probably it's WordPress. And also the most known, there's a lot of tutorials how to master it. But if we talk about commercial, it's definitely Bittrex. Okay. So they have very good infrastructure and a lot of services. So if you make your site on the basis of Bittrex, we can say that you are complete with task managers and everything.
Okay. So
and analytics.
So it's named Bittrex, Betrix.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Is Russia a backlink country? I mean, do SEOs are used to give some links? Is it for a fee? Is it in exchange of a service? I mean, is it a country, a market on which there is the culture of making some backlinks in order to rank higher within the search engine results?
Yes. It's definitely a thing in Russia. You can buy backlinks. You can, let's say, exchange on the grounds like you can write a guest article on the other side and create backlinks that way. You can make them through social media like Pinterest, VK, Facebook. The same Yandex then also this portal that I mentioned for articles that you can use. If you want to rank higher, you should think on your backlink strategy.
Okay.
This is a good instrument.
And last question. Wow, that was 55 minutes. Are there any legal obligation that we should fulfill if we want to open a website in Russia? For example, in France, if you open a website, you have the obligation to have a web page, on which you are saying who is the hosting platform behind and who is the person who is responsible for all the content which are published on the website. And of course, after that, you have the privacy policy part who came into play with GDPR. And I was wondering if in Russia, you need somehow to show who you are in order to publish a website content with like it's open, anyone can do it. There's no legal obligation.
Well, basically, anyone can do it under the legislation.
Okay.
So your content, everything you do should be legal. Otherwise, it will be banned, as you already know. Yes, you have to add on any page of your site how to call it? Sorry.
Contact page or something like this?
No, it's not contact page. Contact page is thing that will help you, will help your business. But about things that are obligatory, like you have to show the agreement that visitors are accepting that you use their data.
So more the privacy policy and consent management.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Do you have anything to say to our audience, Leila?
Bring your business to Russia.
Yeah.
This is actually a great market. Yeah, I don't know. If you have any questions, you are free to ask. But yeah, you should not be afraid to go to Russian market. We have a good purchase possibility, and yeah, you shouldn't be afraid of Russian hackers. Definitely, just expand your business. Be honest, be trustworthy, and that's it. It's gonna work.
Okay. Thank you so much, Leila, for your time today. You answered to all the questions. Thank you so much. Next YouTube interview that I will have, I have 3 guests in mind. I have thinking about Iceland, thinking about Japan, thinking about Serbia, thinking about Lebanon. I have a lot of other interviews to conduct. I really hope that you will enjoy as well those interviews. Once more, thank you very much, Leila, for accepting this interview today.
Thank you. It was a nice experience.
Yep.